This is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Mark. And today's guest is almost like talking to myself from a parallel universe. Welcome Cento Threeo's Don Cento. Don's been creating music for decades in all kinds of ways, all kinds of styles, and in all kinds of roles. He played guitar about as seriously as any teenager until he ran across a flamenco guitar player who performed at his school. That changed everything. And when he was considering colleges, there was an odd coincidence that set his path in motion. And it turns out that a relative ended up working at that same college a few years into Don's time there. He really had no plans after college, but ended up falling into a graphics design career due to the needs of all the bands he was in. He's learned a lot from every band that he's been a part of, and he also talks about these different bands, the different genres, and how all of that has helped him in his music career. He's formed a cool band called Cento Threeo, and their debut album is about to come out. It's called Halfway to Mellowtown and is filled with exquisite music. Don reveals the thought behind the band name and the reason they spent 2 whole days recording the entire album. So go check it out, order it on Bandcamp, stream the music, and support awesome music like Cento Threeo. Check out CentoThreo.com for more info and social media links, even though they're pretty easy to find. Follow us at Performance ANX on socials, grab merch at performanceanx.threadless.com, or just send some money to ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. And now, may I present Don Cento of Cento Threeo on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
All right, well, let's start with the worst one first. Hi, folks. This is Don Cento from the Cento Threeo. We have a record coming out on June 19th, our debut called Halfway to Mellowtown, and I've been discussing it on the Performance Anxiety podcast, and I'm happy to say that my performance anxiety was at the lowest level it's been in 25 years. Awesome. Well, cool. Thank you. This has been a blast. You can hear me. I was just testing my headphones. I'm glad it's all working.
Yes, so. Same here. So it helps if it's on my end too. So, thank you for jumping on and joining me. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've been enjoying the album a lot.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. And thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, my pleasure. The only thing I ever ask any of the guests, and I ask every guest to do, is just a little intro, but I like to record it when we're done after the conversation. Okay. So it doesn't sound so cold, you know. So
that's a great. I like that plan a lot. That's good thinking.
It's just your name, the band, promote it as much as you want, and then as long as you throw the podcast name in there somewhere, and I'll remind you at the end. I usually take the worst sounding one and use that. So
perfect. Perfect.
Just to put everybody at ease, you got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So
great.
Don't try so hard. So or worry too much. I don't know. I try to make it sound not intimidating, but everybody messes it up.
Yeah, of course. But your advice, don't try so hard, is the phrase of the day for me these days. So we can talk at length about that.
All right,
especially given the name of your podcast.
Yeah, it's funny because I almost never talk about that either. It's just ridiculous. It kind of started off like I need something to tie in every episode, and then I just kept forgetting to ask people about it, and then
right.
It just kind of just became the name. It doesn't really have anything to do with the podcast anymore. So, but you'd be amazed at the amount of emails I get from doctors and therapists wanting to come on the podcast. I'm like, you haven't listened to it at all.
You don't know what this is. Yeah.
I literally got one yesterday morning that said, "I listened to your podcast and I'm hooked. I want to talk about bad habits that you can overcome and how to reduce your anxiety." I'm like, you didn't listen at all.
Yeah. It was like an AI chatbot trying to do a marketing pitch or something like that.
Exactly. So I replied, I'm like, I'm glad you're hooked and keep listening, but you're not getting with the idea of the podcast at all. So, but
right.
Thanks for reaching out. I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so what I like to do is try to do this a little bit chronologically. It doesn't have to be strictly chronological, but I like to start at the beginning because I think that kind of helps show where you're at now. I think it all kind of informs your latest projects. So I kind of want to start off finding out a little bit about how music became important to you in the first place. I mean, was there a lot of it growing up in the household? Do you have any parents or siblings that are musicians or like to play instruments?
There wasn't a lot growing up in the household. I do have one relative who is a musician, of educator of note, but he didn't come into my life until well down my path.
Okay.
But the music thing just kind of... My parents had a bit of a record collection. I mean, they had what everybody had, maybe a Pearl Bailey record or a Tchaikovsky and a Frank Sinatra record.
Right.
And there were a few like fits and starts for me as a kid. I remember very young, like my first memory of music was Kenny Rogers' The Gambler.
Oh,
that song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a cool evocative story, and it's on a train bound for nowhere. I think that this was when I was probably 5 or 6, I think, maybe 7.
Okay.
So I like the lyrics, but what really grabbed me, and I still like, is, I don't know if you know the recording, there's a wood block that kind of comes in, I believe, in the second verse, and it's heavily reverbed out.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't know what that was as a young kid, but I thought it was just the coolest sound. Right. And it was a sound that sort of was just an added ambient element that helped reinforce the story. It was just, I was just hooked on that. And so I loved the whole story. I loved the way the gambler came in and, was introduced, gave advice, and then disappeared like Yoda in the third verse. Right. But it was just sort of underscored by that sound. And I've always come back to that sound. And so that was like very young, before I even thought about playing an instrument. I didn't know what an instrument was.
Right.
And then I think I had like a fit and start with a guitar lesson, which I didn't take seriously. I didn't know why I was supposed to be doing it, but my parents rented an acoustic guitar from the music store.
Oh, man.
A small town in Missouri. And I took like 5 or 6 lessons, and I don't think I ever practiced. I think I remember strumming real hard one day and saying I, quote unquote, wrote a song. I think I called it a tornado or something like that, because I'm from a small town in Missouri in the Midwest, and it was always under threat of tornadoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then fast forward to like 6th grade, and you go into band class, and I wanted to play cello for some reason, but I guess I had done well enough on this audio test that the band director co-opted me and said, no, you have to play French horn, because was apparently a difficult instrument.
That's what my youngest daughter played.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah. So I was neither very good nor very bad. I was purely mediocre. So I sat right in the middle, right in the front row, right in front of the band director. And so I remember one day in 7th grade, and again, like, I'm just kind of going through life as a 7th grader. I had a music teacher that I liked, but, music was music. But one day, instead of band class, we had a guest artist, and it was a flamenco guitar player named Ronald Radford.
Oh, wow.
An American, one of the few Americans that had gone to Spain, studied with Segovia.
Oh, wow.
And studied the flamenco tradition, like moved to Sevilla, I guess it was, and just kind of dug into that.
Wow.
And came back to the States and was a touring, performing flamenco guitar player. But he did this thing for our class, and I was, like I said, right in the middle, right in front of him, maybe 6 feet away at most, and it rewired my brain. Oh, I had never heard anything like that, because it's flamenco music, it's electric and very rhythmic and just very intense.
It's exciting.
And it's very exciting, and as a 7th grader I was completely captivated and knocked out by that. And I went home and told my mom and dad that he's playing a concert in another small town, and we have to go to that tonight. So I think we my mom put dinner in the fridge, and we went to this concert, and it was in a basketball gym, and it was amazing. I bought his tape. I talked to him afterwards. He autographed his tape.
Oh, wow.
And that was it. And the next day I started saving money. I think I might have been mowing lawns. I don't think I was bussing tables yet. But I started saving money for a guitar, and that was sort of the beginning of that whole journey. I'm still on that journey.
Oh, wow. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. It really took a hold of you because you did major in jazz performance in North Texas. Yeah. So go Mean Green.
Yeah. So, you have a Denton connection?
No, not at all. I love college football. So
okay, very good.
Every once in a while, you guys are spoilers. So
boy, every once in a while. And when I was there, you had nothing to worry about from the North Texas football team.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember what I saw something about it. Well, maybe in the past few years. I don't know. It's escaping me. But anyway, so at what point did you decide that this was what you needed to do? Like, instead of just being something you wanted to do in school to something, I'm going to school for this because I want to do this professionally?
It was, well, all right. I think it just became what I did. The guitar kind of just consumed me.
Yeah.
From, 7th grade on. And then around 11th grade, when you kind of start thinking about college or the rest of your life, there were two people. One of them was another kid in school that I was giving guitar lessons to, that he kind of, there was like the jocks and the preps and the nerds and the guys, the heshers and all that stuff. And I was just I was nowhere guy, right? I was kind of chummy with everybody. But I got along with all like the heavy metal hesher kids because I knew about guitar and about metal and things like that. And I started giving some of them guitar lessons because I could play a Metallica song. Right. and then one night I was out with my, just cruising around, again, small town in Missouri with some friends. We go to 7-Eleven and I see this guy, one of my students who I maybe hadn't seen for a year. He's like, "Hey, you should go to the University of North Texas." I'd never heard of it. I didn't know why. I was like, okay, cool. So I filed that away and maybe I looked it up. But then the relative that I mentioned earlier was my mom's cousin. So I guess my second cousin, this guy named Dave Schrader. He came to visit. And my mom had never mentioned him really. I don't remember if she had, but he was at that point living in Nebraska, and he was the dean of the School of Music at one of the universities in Nebraska.
Okay.
And he was a percussion player. And, his resume at that point was amazing. Like he lived in San Francisco. He had toured with Glenn Campbell, playing drums in Glenn Campbell's band. He was involved with Apple Computer in the early days, writing music software.
Oh my gosh.
Just, incredible stuff, wow. Right? And so he came to visit and he stayed with us, and I played guitar for him. I think I played like a Joe Satriani song or something like that. Maybe half of a Wes Montgomery melody. Nice and choices. He was like, well, you got to go to North Texas. And so that was the second time anybody had mentioned this to me. So I was like, well, I guess I got to go to North Texas.
Hey, all it takes is two mentions.
It's true. Yeah. And so I went there. I ended up going to North Texas. And the funny postscript to that is I went in 1991. And in 1992, the dean of the School of Music left North Texas, and they did the dean search, and the guy they chose that ended up being the dean was my mom's cousin, Dave Schrader.
Oh my gosh.
Just flukily. And he changed, I only had like 2 more years there, but he changed sort of the whole face of the School of Music, built a big performing arts hall, then became sort of, I think, the main fundraising guy for the whole university, because he was great. He's a very charismatic guy, great musician, but he's also very good at getting old ladies to write checks for donations. So
that's what they need.
So he did that for years. He's retired now, but he was, he's one of my favorite people. He's the guy that going through the jazz school, which was a whole experience. I was very lucky to have him. I would see him every few months. I would have coffee or something, or go over and have dinner. But one night he turned me, he could sense that I was kind of getting burned out on studying jazz and needed a release or something. And he turned me on to Tom Waits.
Oh,
he gave me two Tom Waits CDs. Gave
Man.
me, the Early Years Volume 2, which is all demos from some of the early records.
Okay.
And then he gave me Bone Machine, so it's like bookends of the whole thing.
Oh, man. Yeah, I remember Bone Machine.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went home and just listened. I literally stayed up all night with my Sony Discman and listened to Early Years Volume 2 on repeat.
Wow.
Never heard anything like it. It was like one of those transformative musical experiences.
That is amazing.
Super cool. Yeah.
I'm assuming we're about the same age because I went to college in 91. I went up to Rochester for photography, and Bone Machine hit me just visually because that cover it's just otherworldly. It's so spooky.
Yeah. Is it like a painting or is it a photograph that's sort of been manipulated? It's sort of like a howling face.
Yeah, it's like it's really soft focus and it's just black and white and I wasn't able to determine at the time whether it was a painting or a photo, but it looked like a very scary photo, and it was that's what drew me in, and I was just like, this is wild. I can't even imagine what the music must sound like.
Right. Well, the music's like totally visual as well.
Yeah.
When you get in there, there's so textural and just the sound, the percussion, and just the guitar stuff. And I didn't see it at the time. Well, there's another funny Tom Waits story that I forget about. Like, I had run across him before that. Do you remember, I guess when we're the same age, you probably grew up watching Nick at Night, maybe like I did?
Yep.
Do you remember when they were showing Fernwood Tonight?
Oh, yeah. I love that show.
Yeah, with Martin Mull.
Fred Willard.
Fred Willard, yes, exactly. There was one night I was watching that, and they had a crazy guy on there, and he was playing piano, and he was singing a song about the piano has been drinking.
Yes. Yes.
And I didn't know what it was. I thought he was hilarious, and he came over and sat down and said, "I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy."
Tom, where do you hail from professionally? Is it the Big Apple, as they call New York, I think, or is it Hollywood?
I live at Bedlam and Squalor.
Oh.
That way.
I think we've all lived there at one time. It's kind of strange to have a guy sitting here with a bottle in front of him.
Well, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
At that time, I didn't know what Tom Waits was. I thought he was just a funny character that they had invented.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until 10 years later or whatever it was that I heard the record that I sort of pieced it all back to that show.
Wow.
Amazing.
I never even thought about that. I remember seeing, because my dad was a big fan of Fernwood Tonight when it was new. And so when it came back on Nick at Night, he's like, "Oh, you've got to watch this." And then every night we would just sit down and watch Fernwood Tonight. And I do remember that episode.
That was a magical time for TV, especially late night, because we had Letterman was. Without David Letterman, I don't know where I'd be. I feel like he's sort of informed 90% of my personality.
He's a master.
He was, yeah. Probably a lot of dudes our age. Him and Johnny, and then Conan, and so it was a marvelous time.
All right, and we're gonna go off on a tangent here, and I don't care because this is my podcast. I do what I want.
I love tangents.
I loved Conan's first late night show. I remember watching that. And what's the one that sticks out to me? I don't know if you watch much Conan back in his early days, but the one that I remember watching that made me love this guy, because I really didn't realize he was from The Simpsons, or he was just this late night guy who took over for somebody else. But I believe he was in a Houston bus station interviewing people, and he was talking to one lady. He's like, "So you have no idea who I am?" She's like, "No, I have no idea." And right behind, on a TV above and behind her, was Conan. His late night show was on.
Yeah.
And he's interviewing her. And she's like, "I've got no idea who you are." I'm like, this guy is for me.
Yeah, he was great. Like he was the master at sort of identifying those opportunities, and much like Dave, like very deadpan.
Yeah.
Just not letting the only victim of the joke is himself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He was never like, he would let people dig their own graves.
Right.
Which is always great. But you just let people give them enough rope. But yeah, Conan was amazing at that. And I remember, like, it was back when we had VCRs and I would record everything.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think I probably still have a VCR tape with Letterman's final episode and Conan's first episode.
Oh, wow. Man.
So I would like to go back and watch those just for the commercials alone.
I'll tell you what I've got back from in my basement somewhere is VHS tapes of each late night show from, whoever was the host up to through Saturday Night Live, whoever the musical guest was. If it was somebody I liked, boom, I would end up recording. I have like Pearl Jam's first couple of episodes on SNL and Screaming Trees on I don't even remember who was on it. It may have been Letterman. I'm trying to I don't know. It was anytime they had a band that I was big in, because I was big into grunge and metal at that time. And so anytime any band that I liked was on, boom, I'm recording that, and I've got my own personal little bootleg. So I've got that somewhere.
But that was an amazing thing because I guess if you're our age or my age, I'm 53.
Yep.
That was the way, and again, I keep saying, but I was in a really small town, and so there was not really a record store, and the radio station was like, whatever, classic rock. So discovering music was hard. You had to rely on your friends who were older that had gone to college, and then television and magazines.
Yeah.
So watching Letterman on the regular, or the Tonight Show was a little more conventional, I guess, but Letterman would have more, left of field artists, and then you'd watch MTV when my parents finally got MTV, which was like maybe my senior year we got cable.
Man.
Yeah, watching 120 minutes or watching whatever was going on there. It was kind of catch as catch can. So, and it was a cool time because the mainstream at that point still had sort of and maybe it still does. I don't know what's going on these days, but it had definitely, there was a bit of danger. It felt like would sneak through sometimes.
I will tell you what epitomizes that for me is that I discovered after the fact that, do you remember the Jenny Jones show?
Yeah, it was like a daytime talk show.
Yeah, exactly. One day, I don't even remember what the topic was. She had Dinosaur Jr. on.
That's amazing.
And it's on YouTube. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. These old ladies sitting there, and Jay Mascis is just blowing them away with this double stack, and it's, oh my gosh, it's incredible.
Well, that's an amazing booking.
It was. I don't know how they pulled that one off, and I don't know who pulled that one off. I don't know if Jenny Jones pulled a coup or Dinosaur Jr. was just like,
yeah. But somebody's publicist needs a raise. That's amazing.
All right, so back to you though. When you're enough of late night reminiscing.
Yeah.
When you're going to college for jazz, I mean, what kind of classes do you have to take? I'm always curious about that. I know what I had to do for photography, and I tell somebody I had to take like an M&P course, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" So I'm always kind of curious as to what classes you have to take when you're studying music.
I mean, it was a lot of music theory. So like at North Texas, when I was there, you would major in music, but you would sort of automatically get a minor in music theory just by virtue of the number of hours they would make you take for music theory.
Okay.
So, which I love that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed it. A lot of it, toward the end got way over my head. I would love to go back now. So a lot of music theory, which was just like, analyzing music, and then, sight singing and sight reading, which was really hard. And then for your performance major, like I had to take a lot of classical guitar. Well, I took it by choice because I enjoy playing classical guitar.
Yeah.
And then for like the jazz guitar end, you had to take a lot of, kind of everybody had to take these intro to jazz guitar things where they taught you just fundamentals, like scales. You have to know all these scales and arpeggios and chord shapes and things like that.
Okay, makes sense.
Just to kind of give you the basic building blocks to kind of communicate with other new musicians or interpret the music that you're supposed to be interpreting in the style, in sort of the, as the jazz language that was being taught there, which was sort of like bebop and post bebop.
Okay.
Sort of like the Charlie Parker to the Miles Davis. Just that was sort of the language there. And then there was the big band. So the lab equivalent of like if you're in biology and you have to like dissect something or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if you're in film school, you have to make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But so the lab equivalent at North Texas, and I think probably any music school, is a performance ensemble. The jazz program was a big band. So you had like the classic big band lineup. So you had to know how to interpret that music. And a lot of that music we would do like old classic Count Basie charts all the way up to more modern, like Stan Kenton charts. So it was just a whole variety of music. So you had to know, you had to get your fundamentals under your fingers first. Because the guitar parts were not really, sometimes there would be notes on a staff written out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it would just be a chord symbol.
Oh.
Oftentimes it's just a chord symbol, and you have to know how to interpret that chord symbol in the moment,
Oh my gosh.
based on what's around you. So it was a lot of that. Yeah.
So while you're studying, are you playing in other bands and playing the stuff that, I don't know, maybe you want to play, maybe a little more alternative, since that was kind of what was big back in the early 90s, or rock? I mean, were you doing that outside of class?
Definitely. The first few years it was mainly like jazz, but we would have jam sessions. We would break into the music building after hours and set up in a classroom and just jam, which was fun. But then at some point, I've started a band with my roommate, Jerry Rawson, a singer named Hillary Tips, and a drummer named Ari Honig, who's now just a world-class jazz drummer. And we were called Matfield Green. And we played, I don't know, it was just sort of like pop rock. Jerry was a fabulous piano player, and he wrote a lot of the songs. So he was, I don't know, what was he into at that time? Like Peter Gabriel, Bruce Hornsby. It was sort of, very just sort of dense, middle of the road pop rock music.
Right.
It was a good band. We played gigs in Fort Worth and maybe in Dallas a couple of times. So
cool.
That was sort of the beginning of that end of things too. So there were two parallel paths of like the jazz guitar thing and then the rock and roll thing.
So what were your plans after school? Did you want to be a touring musician? Did you want to be more in the studio? Did you want to be behind the desk? What were you thinking?
No, I wasn't. I had no plans. I was just sort of drifting.
Hey, sounds like me.
I should have been thinking more about that. No, at that point, it was just, I wanted to continue exploring the guitar, playing. Maybe, what I knew that was available to me was I knew a lot of people did cruise ships, and I almost did a cruise ship, and I decided that was not for me. I ended up moving to Los Angeles for a year, which was, that my sister had lived out there, but she got cancer and passed away during that year. But that year didn't work out for me. But a number of my friends went out there and became, touring drummers, guitar players, and things like that. But that also never really felt right to me, the sideman gig.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of was drifting for a little bit, and then got a call to play in a band that had been doing some touring, not as a sideman, but just like in the band. So I came back to Texas and did that for a while. So I was doing that and was just sort of doing temp gigs and, just odd jobs here to fill in the spaces.
Was that Brad Thompson?
That's Brad Thompson, yeah.
Okay.
I was in the Undulating Band.
I saw a Horde performance by them on YouTube, trying to do research, but you weren't part of it. I was like, damn it.
That might have been after me. I don't remember.
Yeah, it had, I don't remember exactly when it was. It was close, but it listed who the players were, and I didn't see your name. And I'm like, can't use that clip.
No,
damn it.
No, you can't. There's very few remarkable clips of me on the internet. I somehow managed to go unphotographed for a long time.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Yeah, so there's never really a plan other than I like making original music, and I've always felt more comfortable doing that than playing in somebody else's band or trying to, was never good in a cover band or a wedding band or anything like that.
Right.
So it was always the original music, and then kind of I fell into a graphic design sort of side career by virtue of being in bands. Literally because in the Brad Thompson band, we needed posters, we needed all this kind of stuff. So I got into that.
So that fell on you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think the drummer had a computer and I had a computer, the drummer, Rich Stitzel. And so he and I kind of like put our brains together and started figuring that out. And I just kept it up.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that became a career that sort of subsidized being in rock bands for me.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So, but then you're playing in Chomsky at that point, right?
Yep. That was around, I joined Chomsky in 1999. So there was a period of time, I think I left Brad's band in 97 or 98. So there was a year or two there where I was just kind of farting around. I still feel like I'm farting around.
Yes, sir.
But I joined Chomsky after I started doing graphic design stuff for them.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah. And I joined Chomsky playing keyboards. Oddly enough,
I did see that because I was listening to some of it. The first thing I heard was Straight Razor, and I thought that was really cool. I like that song a lot.
It's a great that's a great song.
It's really good pop rock.
You power lifter, just sound a clue and it's all over. And I can always treat you well, and you won't hear the kiss and tell. Just keep coming on strong. And I can always treat you well, and you won't hear the kiss and tell. Just keep coming on strong.
And I obviously haven't listened to all of it, but what I heard, I got into, and I thought it was pretty good.
Well, that was sort of like the beginning for me of, and I've been very lucky, unwittingly apprenticing myself or getting in bands with people that are incredible songwriters.
Oh,
like
nice.
Sean Halleck in that band is an incredible songwriter. Like those songs, the album before that, A Few Possible Selections for Your Life, or A Few Possible Selections for the Soundtrack of Your Life.
Nice. I like that title.
It's a great title. I'm not on that record, but it's a great record. Like every song is an absolute perfect song. And all the songs on the record that I did with them, Onward, Quirky Soldiers, are all great. But it was just like being exposed to somebody with a songwriting vision that knew exactly what they wanted from an arrangement perspective, from a sonic perspective, from all of that. That was the first time I was ever sort of exposed to that. And that really sort of taught me how to think about rock songs in terms of parts.
Oh,
like I'd been in bands and I played guitar in bands, but it was, maybe I was okay at it, but it really started to make sense probably around the Chomsky time.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it was cool. It was great. And there was a band we were playing a ton, and that helps, touring a lot, playing around locally a lot.
What you're saying makes a whole lot of sense to me because I went to college. I didn't finish, but I went to college for photography. And then I learned a lot of technical stuff, and it didn't really it made technical sense, but it didn't really click until I was out doing things, doing photos and gigs. So it sounds to me like almost a similar path where, with your school, you knew you had a lot of great technical knowledge, but the songwriting and stuff, like you're saying, really clicked once you got out and started playing with other people who were really good songwriters. Yeah,
I think that's like any art school, I think would be that way. It's you get all these technical, not rules, but this technical ability and stuff, and you don't really know how to put it all together. And it sits there in your brain for 4 or 5 years, just kind of bouncing around until you fall into a situation where you get a mentor or you get a band where everything just kind of starts to gel and you're like, oh, it all starts to work.
Yeah.
And maybe you forget about all that stuff, and you just start thinking about it as music, which is the ultimate goal, and just start thinking about how do I make music? How do I express myself in a ordered or disordered fashion, or whatever energy I'm trying to capture or pass along or disseminate?
Yeah.
I think there is a sort of a recovery period after music school, after art school.
I know what you mean.
Where you have to sort of unlearn everything that you learned and then relearn it in a way that suits an aesthetic that you may be developing.
Yes, exactly. So. I feel like It's funny because we're the same age, and I feel like I'm talking to the musical version of me.
Yeah,
because I'm not a musician at all. So,
well, no, I that's awesome because I think that it's probably the age-old story. I think if we talk to the generation before us, their practical experience may have been different just because whatever commercial environment they entered into was different. But I think it's just there's still sort of a learning and an unlearning, and then a relearning.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Especially if you're going to be an original artist. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah, because you got to I don't know. As a photographer, was there a period of time where you mimicking artists that you liked? Were you trying to take shots like Richard Avedon or whatever?
Absolutely, absolutely. And then there was a time where, and this, I don't know if this happened with you, where I just got in a rut and I just got stuck, and I actually hated photography, and I stopped doing it professionally for years. I was also living in the deep South at that time, and it was an atmosphere of, well, why should I pay? And so this is like late 90s, early 2000s. Why should I pay you, $300 to shoot my wedding when my cousin can do it for, $20?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, because it's going to look like your cousin did it for $20. And I just got tired of fighting it, and I kind of gave up on it. And before that, I right out of college, I was doing high school portraits and stuff that was less than inspiring. So in my own stuff, I was going out and I was trying to do, back to what we were talking about, was at that time, my goal was to be able to shoot like that Tom Waits cover. I wanted to do stuff like that. So,
right. I think that's every commercial, every artist's journey. Because if you're trying to make a dime doing this and you do it on a somewhat commercial level, like you have to learn how to pick your clients.
Yeah.
Like you have to learn how to identify, well, this client is going to be more trouble than they're worth. Like I need $300, but maybe I don't need it. I don't need to pay $600 emotional dollars to earn $300 US dollars.
Exactly.
But you don't know that until 5 years down your career.
Yep. It's exactly right.
When you start out, you can't afford to make those decisions. So everybody's got to, eat their pound of dirt or whatever it is for a while.
Exactly. And so now I'm not doing it professionally, but I'm enjoying it more. I go out and I shoot concerts and stuff, and it's an architecture, and it's on my own time, and I've fallen back in love with everything. So
that's awesome.
It's it's so much fun. I absolutely love doing it. And I actually started doing some work for my employer now, as far as coverage of stuff for whatever they're looking for, product shots or event coverage. So it's
that's awesome.
It's working out now. So, but this isn't a podcast about me again. So.
No, but it is, because it's sort of a conversation, I think, about the continuum of making art in America. As middle-aged people,
right? Yeah.
But something you just said, I think, if I'll talk about me for a second. Echoing back to why we're talking, is you're doing photography again on your own terms, which is amazing. But the reason we're talking is because of this jazz guitar record I did. And jazz guitar is something I left aside for like 10 or 15 years, and didn't touch it. And then, by virtue of my friend Norm twisting my arm to put together a little jazz trio, I got reinvigorated, and I'm doing it on my own terms.
That's awesome.
Not trying to fit into a milieu, or not trying to please a professor, or not always successcal, because I'm still an artist. There's still those hang-ups, I think.
Yeah.
But it is something that I returned to and became re-energized about, in a total, more energized than I ever was about. And I took it's the culmination of all of these lessons that I've learned doing other things in the musical world, playing in bands, producing records. But that kind of developed I don't know, maybe I'm just brave enough now to do it.
Yeah.
The way I want to do it. I think that's super inspired to practice.
Yeah. I think that's part of it. Because in my world, I'm always looking for a new technique in Photoshop or something that I can incorporate into concert shots or something. And it's because I want it to look a certain way. Not because it's what's selling right now. What's the trendy thing to do? I think this would look cool in this shot. How do I do it? And I'm eager to go and find out how to do it now, whereas I was not 20 years ago or more.
Well, that's awesome, because that's the whole thing, is the search for what? There's nothing in particular we're searching for. We're just it's the joy of the hunt. It's
exactly.
This song is great. That picture is amazing, but it could be something else. It could be. It's not a search for perfection. It's just a search for growth. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I don't know if anybody. I'm sure some great artist, probably a painter.
Yeah,
probably Matisse or somebody said it better. I'm sure if somebody wants to Google, or the Stravinsky has this book, The Poetics of Music. It's all of it's amazing, but over my head. But I'm sure they've encapsulated what we're trying to say in a very pithy way. But it's this quest. It's an endless quest.
Yeah,
it's the sort of never being happy, perhaps, with where you are, but never being satisfied with where you are.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And speaking of a quest, you've been on one, because I was looking at some of the people you've worked with, and it's all over the place. I mean, you've done some amazing, like I was listening to Sarah Jaffe. I really like the Bad Baby album.
I'm gonna take it for face value. I know my place without you. You're a bad baby if nothing else is true. Bad baby, bad for business too. In fact, lately it's everything you do.
That album you did with Ume is incredible. I love that album.
Ume's great. Yep. I just play keyboards on that, but I did end up touring with them afterwards. We did a couple, for about a year, maybe 3 or 4 tours. Amazing. Like, all the guitars on that record are by Lauren, and she's an incredible guitar player. But she does, and they'd always done it as a trio. Okay. They wanted this one tour. They wanted another guitar player to kind of fill out the sound. So my friend Stuart Sykes recommended me, but she always tours like 5 guitars, different tunings, all pedals and all this kind of stuff. But I'm lazy, and I didn't want to bring 5 guitars on the road, so I had to learn how to play all of her weird tuning guitar parts in standard tuning on guitar. So for better or for worse, I did that.
Well, you say lazy, but that seems incredibly difficult.
It was hard.
I would say pragmatic.
Maybe it's pragmatic. I will say it is definitely pragmatic, but there's, looking back on it, I enjoyed the challenge, but there's little subtleties that are lost. But it's but it doesn't matter. We're on stage,
it's live,
a big rock show, yeah,
exactly.
But that was a great experience.
You also did really cool stuff with Vitskar Sudin.
Mm-hmm.
That is some cool stuff. How did that happen?
That goes all the way back to the small town in Missouri. My best friend growing up, one of my best friends, Marty Garner, he and I have known each other since 4th grade. We met doing community theater, and then we just became good buddies doing stupid videos together. And then we had our band. The first band we had was called the Bearded Clam Wonder, which we changed that to the Asbestos Sisters. And it was a bit.
I love it.
And we made a bunch of tapes. We had a 4-track in the basement. We just made a bunch of tapes, and we've remained great friends ever since. He is in the film industry in Hollywood. doing like special effects stuff. And so Vitskar Sudin is a bunch of his film industry buddies.
Oh,
He's a
cool.
director and editor and actor. And so they just started doing this, getting together, jamming to blow off steam.
Right.
And when Marty's away on a shoot in the evenings on his downtime, he just started like slicing up their jams and assembling songs. And so when he kind of got stuff to where he liked it, and by that time I had my little studio going, he asked me to mix it. So I started mixing it. I think he came down to Austin and we mixed the record. Maybe I overdubbed some guitar and synthesizer, and that record ended up doing strangely very well. in that, I don't know what community you would call that, sort of a doom community or something.
Yeah, I've seen it listed in like doom, stoner.
Yeah, shoegaze, stoner, metal.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter, but it did really, really well.
I am a dark horse of 1845. I will never die. I am a cautious Catholic with a mind of the rotten kind.
And so they made another record, and I don't know if the second or third record came out on Ripple, but they've had at least one record out on Ripple Music, which is a big doom metal record from the West Coast someplace. So yeah, those are records that were just born out of that friendship going back to fourth grade, man.
That's amazing. And in between all of this, you're doing surf pop instrumentals with Shibboleth.
Shibboleth's another one. Yeah, Shibboleth is sort of the brainchild of my good friend Rich Martin, who I started playing in Shibboleth around 1999. I think probably before I was in Chomsky, maybe. James Driscoll, the bass player in Chomsky, is also the bass player in Shibboleth. And I've known James since college. And Rich is the same story as Chomsky. Rich is the best writer in the world. An amazing piano player, but just an amazing composer with his own voice, his own point of view, his own set of influences, and it's all there. It's all fully baked.
Okay.
And so getting to be around that as well was just sort of another like lesson in chords and melodies and just ideas and putting things together. And so just absorbing that consciously and unconsciously. And, every time I sit down to write, sometimes for better or for worse, it's like, what would Rich do? What would Sean do? What would Tom Petty do? But it's just being close to that kind of stuff that I think was the best thing that ever happened to me. Okay. Hopefully it's informed whatever writing I do. Hopefully the writing that I do rises to the level of those writers. That would be the best I could hope for myself.
I understand what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so again, shows Shibboleth has been just a great source of joy. And Rich just moved to Austin a few months ago. So
nice.
He and I have been playing again together, which has been super fun.
Oh, that is awesome. So, all right. So I see in like 2020, you started doing more behind the scenes stuff, a lot of producing, engineering, mixing. Was that out of COVID necessity, or was it out of just wanting to, well, maybe like in my own situation, getting burnt out on some things and just stepping back, but kind of staying in the business?
Yeah, it was that. It was, I've always been recording, I guess, starting with 4-track stuff at home, and then probably took a break for about 10 years, and then got an ADAT machine. And the second Shibboleth record, I did guitars at my place. And when we moved to Austin, here in the spare bedroom where I am now, I had started doing little, self-recording, and then gradually I meet some people and do some overdubbing, and it kind of started to grow. And so my wife and I got a second, like a little tiny little house not too far from here, and that turned into a studio.
Oh, nice.
And so just to kind of like, let's see what we can do. Maybe this will be a rent house or maybe it'll be a studio. And so that was 2018. And I just started making records and it just kind of didn't stop. So then that became, at that point, I was trying to get out of graphic design and kind of get into recording and production. And so that kind of worked out. I just kind of dovetailed back out of that. And then the pandemic happened and I was doing some mixing then and gradually figured out how to do sessions with masks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then that has been my main thing since 2018, probably up until last year. I kind of slowed that down a little bit. We'll probably pick that up again in a year or two as we make some more changes. But yeah, it was just sort of again, going back to no plan. There's never really a plan. It's
Right.
just sort of things. My interest might get piqued here and there, and then I'll just sort of pull that thread,
Yeah.
I have a big network of people that indulge me, I guess. And I've been fortunate that it's turned into work and some repeat business, which is the best part.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I've just been. It's just been it's not been all right. There's not been a plan, but I will say, whenever I get into something, it becomes very intentional. Like I get way into doing it and doing it well and doing it right and providing the best. These people are paying me. I want to try and provide the best service I can, or the best help that I can, and give them the product that they want. I'm not afraid to share my opinion, but at the end of the day, a client has the final say. So
Right, yeah. So you've got a new album, new band coming out, but before we hit that, I'm kind of curious because the band. I love the name Cento Threeo, and I was just kind of wondering if there's any relation to your other work as El Cento. So I know is that more of a solo thing, El Cento, or is it a kind of a band? And is Cento Threeo, is there any connection, or is it a completely separate entity?
It's a completely separate entity, other than it's just my last name.
Okay.
Perhaps it's self-aggrandizing, but that it's kind of a nifty last name, I think, Cento, or if you're Italian, Cento.
Right.
And growing up, my favorite band was Van Halen, so you've got maybe it's a little honorific there,
nice.
honoring the Van Halen brothers. But El Cento was sort of a rock and roll project, and at the time, I called it El Cento because that was just a little nickname that I adopted, or that was given to me by my friend Mike Chitwood in high school, because we both had Spanish class together. And I was terrible at Spanish, and I just got by putting an O on the end of English words. And
Nice.
And so Mike said,
sounds like a Conan O'Brien skit.
Totally. And Mike was like, you should call yourself El Cento. So I just started signing all my Spanish papers El Cento, and that just kind of stuck.
I love that. Oh my god! It doesn't work when your name ends Cento is fine. El Cheo.
El Cheo, yeah.
I don't know if that would have worked.
It works because there's already an O.
Right, yeah. You get three vowels in a row, it doesn't work out so well.
Yeah. No. But then the Cento Threeo happened just because we're doing a jazz trio, and I didn't want to call it the Don Cento Trio because that just sounds kind of corny, I guess. And I have a habit of being, I guess apparently after being in Chomsky and then in Shibboleth, I did not learn a lesson, so I'd name my next band something equally impossible to spell or communicate to people. So I don't know, but I should have been in the Cars. They knew it was up, or the Eagles. Why didn't I do that?
Yeah, seriously.
No, but it's just I don't know. I like plays on words, I guess.
I love it. I think it's clever, and it made me laugh as soon as I was approached to speak with you. I'm like, Cento Threeo. Why? And that's the first thing I thought of was, why didn't I ever think of the word Threeo instead of trio? It's brilliant. I love it.
Well, thank you.
So the debut album is coming out, Halfway to Mellowtown, which, like you said, for you, it's kind of I don't know if I want to say rediscovery, but a reignition of your passion for jazz. And I think it's such a great album. I've been listening to it for days now, and I love it.
Thank you very much.
So the band's already changed up a little bit. So
Yep.
You've got you. It started off with you and let's see, Phil Spencer on bass and Norm Bergeron on drums. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Yep. And it was Norm's idea. Norm pitched. I've known Norm since college, and Norm's just an incredible drummer and percussionist. You know, he studied hand percussion in Africa and in Cuba, and
Wow.
he just kind of knows it inside and out. He's just an incredible musician, just a world-class musician, and the sweetest guy you'll ever meet. And you know, so we knew each other in college and lost touch. You know, we lived our lives and kind of reconnected. And he suggested, and I was very flattered that he would ask me to be. He wanted to do like a little jazz guitar trio. He lived near a hamburger restaurant in Temple, Texas, and he said he could get us a gig there, and we could do like, no stakes. We'll just do covers, like 60s and 70s FM, AM hits.
No stakes, just hamburgers.
But we'll do them as just exactly. But we'll just do it like, you know, nothing, no worries.
Yeah,
we'll just kind of hang out and play his music in a jazz style. And so we did that. Played a bunch of covers, and it was a blast. And then I had one jazz song left over from college, and we played that, and it was really cool. And then I just kind of got a bug and just started writing. And the first song we played was really good, and everybody was into it. And so I just kept writing, and it was all, not all of it, but the stuff that was really working. And next thing I know, we had 12 or 13 songs that were ready to go, that we've been gigging on a little bit. And this was 2024, and Norm and his wife Shannon moved back to Maine from where they're from. They knew they were going to move back in May 2025.
Okay.
So in December, and I was like, I want to capture this band right now. So in December 2024, we went into the studio and recorded the record in 2 days.
That's amazing.
So I just wanted to get a snapshot of that moment and that little thing that happened. And so we did it, and it turned out really well. You know, went in with my buddy Stuart Sykes, who's an incredible engineer, incredible producer, and we worked for 2 days, 2 long days, and played a few more gigs. Yeah, and then Norm moved to Maine, and Matt Johnson stepped in on drums, and we've been going strong ever since then.
I cannot believe all this was done in 2 days. It sounds incredible. It's got a beautiful, that warm jazz tone that everybody loves. That's what you get. One of the things he draws you into jazz is his incredible tone. 2 days. I'm kind of blown away by that. It's wow.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm super happy with sonically the way it sounds, because we had a very specific sort of, you always go in with a specific goal and maybe you don't get there. But I'm happy with what we have. I think we got somewhere. We got someplace equally as good as what maybe probably better than I had envisioned. You know, I wanted something where the drums had some girth to them and some roundness and some bottom. I don't think you hear that enough on jazz records these days, or at least some of the ones I've listened to. And I just kind of wanted to have a jazz feeling, and also just sort of a rock feeling, but not rock. I wanted it to feel not too compressed, a little roomy. I don't know. And Stuart just did a great job capturing it. Like, I remember listening to it before it was mixed, and just the raw sounds were so good. I mean, Stuart did such a good job. It was so cool. I was so happy with that.
It sounds very open. I love the sound of it. Like you said, it does not sound compressed, or to my untrained ears, it sounds like a big Texas skyline. I mean, it's just a huge open sound. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah.
So the opener it just sets an incredible tone for the album. I mean, the Judy valve. So what's a Judy valve?
Another one of my stupid stories.
Oh, yes.
So the Judy valve. My mother-in-law is named Judy. She had a plumbing problem, and my wife and I experienced a similar plumbing problem, where she was having like low water pressure, and she got it repaired, and she was all excited, and she told my wife Sylvia and I about it. And you got to get this one thing replaced; it'll fix your low water pressure. We had the same problem, but we couldn't remember what the name of the part was that we needed to get replaced. So when we were talking about it, we just said, we need to get the Judy valve. And so that became our little inside joke, was the Judy valve.
I love it.
And I just have a note on my phone that I call bad ideas, where I write down things like the Judy valve. And then after I wrote after you write instrumental songs, very rarely does an instrumental song spring from a title. It just comes from an idea. And so then you're done. I got a song. What do I call it? Song? So this one I just put the Judy valve on, because I really think it's a funny word, funny phrase.
I love it. It's great. And now that I know the story about it, I like it even more.
Yeah.
You mentioned, that it's instrumental, the album's instrumental, and when you're writing music, the title for an instrumental song doesn't just appear. But my understanding in doing the research of It Takes What It Takes, it actually began as a vocal track?
Yeah, it did. That's one of there's two instances on this record where they kind of did spring from vocals.
Oh, wow.
It Takes What It Takes was just a song, like I was just writing a song. And sometimes when you write a song, you kind of it will just sort of take shape, and you're sitting there playing guitar, singing a melody and some chords, and words just kind of tumble out that kind of fit the rhythm of whatever melody you're singing. For me, that's always the most important part, is the melody and the rhythm. And then sometimes you fit words to that,
Sure.
And so It Takes What It Takes came out. So that was sort of the working title for a song that was eventually supposed to have lyrics. It ended up hasn't gotten lyrics yet, but it became an instrumental song. So. Maybe I'll write the lyrics someday. I don't know.
I love it. It's one of my favorites on the album.
Thank you.
And I have a question about Dennis Muren, because it's an homage to FX Wizard from Industrial Light and Magic.
Yeah, that's the special effects company that did like Star Wars, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and all that stuff. So again, being a child of the 80s, I loved all those movies. I loved Raiders. I still love Raiders.
Oh yeah.
And then I always just ate up like all those behind the scenes specials that they would run on TV every once in a while.
Yep.
And then they did this the Disney streaming thing had a series on the history of ILM, of Industrial Light and Magic, the company that George Lucas put together that did all that stuff.
Yeah, I seen that.
So my wife and I watched. It's very cool. My wife and I got way into that. And one of the the key guys early on was a guy named Dennis Muren. I think he was sort of Lucas's, maybe his right-hand man. So I was just sort of inspired by him, and I was writing this particular song at that time and had a great feeling for him, so I just slapped his name on it.
That is great.
He doesn't know that yet, but he's the title of a song.
Hey, if he's still alive and on Instagram, I'll tag him. So.
I think he is still alive, and again, the Vitskar Sudin guys that are in the film industry, I've asked my friend Marty. He knows somebody that might know him, so I'm going to try and get him a record somehow.
That would be amazing. Oh,
I'd love for him to hear it.
Yeah, that would be so cool. Oh my gosh. I want to mention these two songs because they are two of my favorite on the albums. Filibuster in E minor. love it's kind of like an upbeat David Lynch song,
Yeah.
which I think is really cool.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. That's the one song that people really seem to respond to for some reason. And when I wrote it, I just kind of like tossed it off. I mean, I worked on it, but it was just sort of like, I don't know what's going to happen with this song.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of the last songs that we do in all of our shows. And it's always, because it's sort of a noir, it's spooky. I think it's sort of like, it feels like maybe it could be a movie theme song.
Yes.
So I think it's pretty easy for people to connect with, and it gets really wild because, it's got a goofy guitar solo, and the drummer there's a big open drum solo where you get to hear the drummer go bananas. So I think people love that. But yeah, I like it. And it's just sort of a goofy, spooky, weird, bluesy melody. And David Lynch was a huge influence on me growing up too. So that's super nice to hear.
Yeah. Oh, and it's weird. And I don't know if this is weird or not, but I used to watch like Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks. My dad was a big David Lynch fan, and he'd be like, "Oh, Blue Velvet's come on, we got to watch that." And now I'm looking at it and going, "What the fuck? I would not put. I don't know if I want to watch that with my kids, and they're in their 20s."
It was a different time.
It was. It was definitely.
But I remember, my dad. We watched, Twin Peaks was on, and I watched Blue Velvet a lot at the house. And I don't know if my dad ever watched Blue Velvet, but he would watch Twin Peaks with me, and just sort of like. I guess people were a little more tolerant of wacky stuff like that. Or maybe it was just there was nothing else like that sort of touched the mainstream in that era.
No.
That I was other than David Lynch.
Yeah, exactly. Wild at Heart. I mean, I remember watching that with my dad.
Amazing, yeah.
Oh, and then the track that wraps everything up, the cover of Roseanne Cash's 7-Year Ache. I remember my parents had that vinyl and they used to play it all the time. So hearing your version of it, it's weird how like an instrumental cover of a song will bring memories flooding back, but it does. And it's really cool because it's a great version. And I love your version of it.
Very much. That's nice to hear, and I think we've actually heard that before about that particular song. Like that was my wife Sylvia's idea when I was putting together a list of songs when we were just starting out doing covers. And she's a big fan of like that era, but I guess it's 80s country.
Yeah.
We just saw George Strait in concert a couple of weeks ago, so
wow.
So she suggested that, and then I listened to it. I was like, oh, this is perfect, and we played it. And that's become our set closer for every gig. And there's been more than one occasion, like people just kind of come up and say exactly what you just said. Like, I remember hearing that song when, or people have a very like visceral, emotional reaction to that song because it's such a great song.
It really is.
The steel guitar melody, the introduction, just the vocal melody and the way she sings it. The lyrics are incredible. It's just so sort of. It just sums up, it kind of gets at that, and we've all been unlucky in love. It captures that broken heart feeling, just sort of that melancholy. Yeah. It's great, It's a really cool thing.
I'm thinking about it now as you're talking. It's making me wonder why you don't see more covers of that song in particular, but you don't see Roseanne Cash being covered very often. At least I don't.
I don't either, but we had a cool thing. We went to see... Here in Austin, they have Austin City Limits, the TV show, every year they have the what do you call it? The Austin City Limits Hall of Fame induction. They have their own little Hall of Fame.
Cool. Okay.
And several years ago, my wife was working for a company, and they were sponsors, and so they got a few tickets, and so we got to go to one of the Hall of Fame induction concerts.
Oh, cool!
It was awesome because it was emceed by Chris Isaak, which was amazing.
Oh man.
And one of the inductees was Roseanne Cash.
Wow.
In her band, the inductees usually have somebody induct them. She had Elvis Costello induct her.
Oh my gosh.
And so she played, and in her band, Elvis Costello played her songs, but in her band was Elvis Costello, Ry Cooder,
What?
who was another one of her husband John Leventhal, who was another one of my favorite guitar players, and Roseanne Cash and Chris Isaac. So it was amazing, an amazing, amazing night of her music, which is sort of like it kind of stands on its own in sort of that 80s country thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're right, it doesn't get covered a lot, but maybe because it doesn't really fit in sort of any country mold. It's kind of it's country, but it's unclassifiable, maybe. I don't know.
It was a weird era of country music. I mean, you had it was like the beginning of and I blame Garth Brooks for the start of the decline of country music, but there was a pop feeling to some of it, like he had Eddie Rabbitt and Ronnie Millsap and those guys.
Yeah,
you know, their stuff could be played on regular FM radio. It was could be on the charts. So it wasn't. But then you still had the outlaw guys playing. So it was a very strange era of country. But one of my favorites.
And it was a great era, and she definitely fits in sort of like that pop. She's definitely pop. It feels like maybe it could be a pop production. You know, the drums feel maybe a little pop rock, but you know, it's got a steel guitar, and her vocal phrasing is pretty country, but it's not like twangy country.
Right.
She's kind of just sits in the cracks in her own magical way.
Yeah. Well, I love, to me, if you can do a cover of somebody like Roseanne Cash without vocals and make me remember that song and what, like driving in the car with my parents and hearing that song, awesome. You've done an amazing job, in my opinion. Well, so thank you.
Thank you very much. That means a lot. That's very nice to hear.
So are you going to be touring at all with the band, or are you staying local?
We're staying local for the foreseeable future. If we do any touring, it'll be up to, Dallas or Denton or San Antonio, places where I know people, and maybe I love touring, but it's very expensive these days, and I just got to figure. I haven't done it in years, so I got to figure out how to do it. I would love to get out and play in various cities, Chicago or New York or whatever. So it's not off the radar.
If you ever get to the DC area, I will be there.
Awesome.
I'll bring my camera.
I would love that. We'll make that happen.
Awesome. So you're not planning on doing like a Spinal Tap thing where you change drummers constantly, right? Matt's going to be there for a little while.
I hope so. I love Matt. Matt's been a revelation. I've admired his playing from afar for many, many years.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we had a mutual friend that hooked us up, and he was. I'm amazed that guys like him and Phil are willing to do this. There's such great musicians. So I'm just flattered and honored that they'll take the time to play these songs with me. And
well, you're in good company. I mean, it does say a lot about the music because Matt, famously known for Jeff Buckley, but also St. Vincent, and who else was it that I was realized who he played with, because I didn't realize it at first until I started looking into it. And let me think, where are my notes?
Wainwright.
Wow, Rufus Wainwright. Yes.
Yeah.
So that to me, that speaks volumes about the songwriting and what you've done with the music. So,
thank you. I could only dream. Yeah. So, but again, it is cool, and he's such a great guy. Like, we have our rehearsals are. We just like any great band, half of the fun is just hanging. So it's become such a great hang, just talking about, he's great, just talking about, he can go really deep explaining rhythms.
Oh man.
It's like a science class with him. It's really, really cool. It's really funny.
Oh, that is.
So awesome. We just hang and talk. It's been really fun getting to know him. And Phil's great. Phil's, just such a game player, and he's got such a fun, I feel like he's, a friend called me a long time ago, the world's only happy-go-lucky cynic, and I feel like Phil's kind of the same way. We connect on that level, and Phil's a great songwriter on his own. He has a little recording project called Firebirdies, if anybody out there wants to go look that up.
Firebirdies. That's intriguing.
Yeah, he's really good. But yeah, it's a great band, and I'm honored to play music with them.
Well, that's incredible. I can't wait for people to hear this album. When is it coming out? How can people pick it up and follow you? Is there a social media presence where they can see what you're doing?
Yeah, it comes out. The record officially comes out June 19th. But website is centothreo.com, CENTOTHREEO.com. We're on Instagram at Cento Threeo, YouTube at Cento Threeo, and I think that's about it. But it'll be on Bandcamp. It'll be on streaming. So if you want vinyl or a CD, you can go on Bandcamp, and it'll be on all the streaming platforms. So
Awesome.
consume it however you consume music.
Excellent. Well, I've got an entire wall of CDs off in front of me that you can't see. Well, here, I'll turn it around so you can see, because this has been from the 90s. I don't think I've ever gotten rid of a CD. So.
Oh, my Lord. That's amazing.
And then I've got some more over here.
That's incredible.
A few more over there. so
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I will be picking the CD up for sure. So
we'll send you one. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending so much time with me. And let me get back in frame here. Oops.
Oh,
there we go. Let me get.
There you are.
I put it back in the cradle and it hit the stupid button on the side. So thank you for spending your evening with me, spending so much time and talking about the music. And it's been awesome getting to know you and learning your backstory. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you for having me. This has been a great conversation. I love hearing your perspective on the music and your perspective on your photography journey. It's cool, man. I love the parallel paths, and it's sort of reflective on each other. I really enjoy that. It
is, man. If you ever get it to DC, let me know. We'll get a beer or something, or
I would love that. Yep.
And then maybe you can play some jazz, and I'll take some pictures of it.
Sold.